Vamos a arrancar la conferencia con un maravilloso artista que se hace llamar Nick Cave. Nick Cave. Nick Cave. Nick Cave. Ok, ¿quién quiere arrancar haciendo la primera pregunta? Por ahí tenemos...
Bueno, bienvenido a México. Yo quisiera preguntarle, ¿en qué nivel creativo se siente? ¿Cómo? Gracias.
Ok, si podemos parar las fotografías. Ok, entonces podemos parar fotos. Creo que el micrófono...
Hello, everybody.
Hola.
Hello,
todos.
hola.
Hello.
Hola.
A ver, creo que ahí ya estamos mucho mejor. Entonces, quien haga la pregunta, igual si se puede parar o levantar la mano para que Nick sepa quién está haciendo la pregunta. Ok.
Jorge Caballero del periódico La Jornada. Quisiera saber cómo siente a nivel creativo. Y a nivel creativo, creativamente, ¿cómo se siente él?
Okay.
¿No? Y cuáles son las cosas esenciales en las que se está concentrando. Gracias.
Okay, welcome to Mexico, first of all. And he wants to know, how are you dealing with your creativity nowadays? How are you feeling talking about creativity?
It's going very well. I've just been in the studio making a new record. It's really good. So in that respect, that's very good. And doing a lot of touring. I feel I've written a lot of lyrics. I've been working very hard. So it's all very good at the moment.
Que está todo muy bien, que justamente entró al estudio para grabar disco, que a nivel letras ha estado escribiendo muchas letras y que está de gira, entonces que realmente él se siente bien, en forma, a nivel creativo.
It's very nice to be in Mexico.
Y que es muy bueno estar aquí en México.
¿Cuáles son las cosas esenciales para ti? ¿Cuáles son las cosas esenciales para ti?
Okay, which are the basic things that concerns you? Which are the basic things for Nick Cave?
That concern me in my own life or about the world or whatever.
De lo que sea, del mundo, personales, de la música y de su vida, musically and personally speaking.
I mean, the thing that I need to continue to do to lead a life that flourishes in some kind of way is to be able to write. If I can't write, things get very difficult for me. So in that respect, things are going really well. I'm able to sit down. I have a lot of ideas, and things seem fresh and new to me at the moment. This is a very good place to be creatively.
Que a fin de cuentas una de las cosas que lo hace florecer es escribir, ¿no? Que para él es muy importante poder escribir y poder sentar y tener ideas, y que eso lo hace sentirse fresco y renovado, y que también estar aquí es una de las cosas que también motiva mucho esa creatividad. Siguiente pregunta.
César Muñoz, de la revista Proceso. ¿Qué nos podría decir de la política y los políticos que mucho hablan y poco hacen en situaciones precisamente de desastre? Hace un año vivimos en México un sismo y ahora les tocó a los hermanos de Indonesia.
Ok, lo que quiere saber es su opinión de los políticos. Sí. Okay. He wants to know about your point of view regarding politicians, politics, specifically working on disasters such as the one Mexico had last year with the earthquake, now Indonesia. Which is your point of view regarding these kind of situations, and how politics...
Regarding what?
Regarding, for example, the earthquake we have here in Mexico.
How can I have a point of view about that?
Que no puede
I don't
tener...
understand what that.
Es que no entiende mucho la
pregunta.
pregunta. Quiere saber qué opina de los políticos ante esas situaciones. He wants to know what do you think about politicians on those kind of situations.
I don't know. I mean, I'm sure there's good politicians and there's bad politicians. I don't know. In regard to those situations, obviously these are terrible things that are happening. I hope that they're being dealt with in some efficient way. I'm sure they are not a lot of the time. But in regard to politics in general, I think it's not my place as a musician and an artist to within my songs to put forward my own political point of views, in the sense that I don't trust artists who tend to do that, to use their creative impulses as a platform to push their particular political agendas down the necks of their audience. I find that gross, to be honest. So I tend to stand away from that sort of thing and take a kind of middle ground within my own writing. I've always felt that way. I don't want to go on stage and preach to people about things. I think within the tradition of Mexican art, maybe, I'm winging it here, but I think there has been a very much a tradition of political art, and that's another thing altogether, I think. But from my own personal point of view, I try to remain outside of that, which is not to say I don't have my own political opinions about things.
Que en cuestión de una opinión en cuanto a los desastres, más lógicamente no es de que ha estado aquí, pero que a fin de cuentas sabe que son situaciones terribles, tanto la de aquí como las cosas que suceden en el mundo, pero que él piensa que igual muchas veces los políticos no actúan de la manera correcta, pero que él en particular tampoco trata de meterse mucho en esos terrenos, no quiere predicar a través de su música, y esto no quiere decir que no tenga una postura política, pero que en realidad a él no siente que va o que sea su función subirse a un escenario y poner empujar una postura política, aunque él la tenga, no le gusta, que sabe que aquí en México igual hay una escuela o una tradición de hacer un arte político, pero que eso es básicamente otra cosa, pero que él no lo aplicaría a su arte.
Can I also add that with my own music I have a completely different agenda to that sort of thing. I'm really trying to work on a personal level with my audience in terms of a kind of a way of helping my audience to move upward in some kind of way, and that is in terms of kind of personal inspiration and that kind of thing. And this seems to be, this kind of connection seems to be really important to me, that I'm connecting with everybody despite their political affiliations. That seems extremely important to me at this point in time.
Que para él, y que lo quiere reafirmar, él tiene una agenda completamente distinta, que uno de sus puntos principales, sobre todo en inspirarse a nivel personal, es poderle llegar a todo tipo de audiencias sin importar su afiliación política, ¿no? Que para él es un punto muy importante, porque siempre ha tratado que su música eleve a la persona que lo escucha, como que suba, como que logre provocar ese subir independientemente de la postura política que tenga, y lograr esa conexión a través de todo lo que es la experiencia personal. Siguiente pregunta.
Hi, over here. Hi Nick, how are you? I'm Manuel Tejeda, Televisa.com. My question, well, I have two questions. September 22 was your birthday, so how was the celebration? How do you feel at your birthdays? The second one is in your town, they sculpture a a big sculpture of you in bronze. How do you feel about that? Is a kind of tribute, or how do you feel about that?
First of all, I can't remember what I did on my birthday.
September 23rd.
When was that? A few days ago? Awesome.
Que no se acordaba cuándo era su cumpleaños.
I was
no se lo
working.
recordaron.
I was working. Sometimes you forget these things when you're working. I was in the studio, actually. Warren bought me a cake. Warren's my violinist. He brought me a pink cake. There is talk of a statue in my hometown in Australia. I have nothing to do with this, but it's a statue of on a horse, like a military statue, rearing up. So I hope that happens, but I have nothing to do with it.
Ok, de su cumpleaños, que generalmente en este tipo de trabajo se te olvida, pero que Warren le compró un pastel rosa, entonces básicamente se la pasó trabajando, ¿no? Y con respecto a en Australia, su estatua, dice que es una estatua militar, que es una estatua en un caballo, pero que en realidad él no tuvo nada que ver con esa estatua, ¿no? Siguiente pregunta.
Ok, Sergio Seica de la Jornada Semanal. Mr. K, I have a few questions more oriented to your fiction books. First of all, when do you interest in write fiction books?
When did it happen?
Yes, and to add, on 20,000 Days on Earth, you say that you believe that the characters from your songs live in one world where there is a God. Do you think your novel's character live on that same world as well?
Okay. First of all, I've always liked telling stories. I don't know. So, okay. So I've always been a storyteller for as long as I can remember. I used to lie in bed next to my sister and tell her stories, and I've just been writing them ever since. I went into songwriting, which was narrative storytelling songwriting. Then I decided to write books, and it's all just been the attempt to tell probably one great big story about things. I think the other question was that my characters live in a world where God exists.
Yes. You say that on 20,000 Days on Earth.
Yeah, I mean, look, in that respect, I feel from a personal point of view that it's hugely advantageous to me as a writer to work under the idea of the existence of God. I find that a hugely effective way to write, and it opens everything up. It opens a spiritual dimension to my writing up. So whether I believe that God exists or not is kind of irrelevant in some kind of way. It's certainly a huge force behind my creativity, that notion of the existence of God.
Bueno, les traduzco esta. Primero la de cuándo empezó esa fue la pregunta, a escribir ficción. Dice, bueno, que siempre le ha gustado el terror, pero que en realidad él es un contador de historias. Y esas historias se las empezó a contar a su hermana antes de dormir, y que a partir de ahí fue cuando empezó también a escribir, que siempre el escribir una narrativa también va a los libros, va a las letras de sus canciones, y que siempre espera decir una gran historia. Y por otro lado, la referencia hacia uno de sus personajes de existir en un mundo en donde habita Dios. Dice que esto le da una ventaja para escribir, el dar por sentado la existencia de Dios. El que crea o no crea, eso es básicamente irrelevante, pero que a fin de cuentas eso le permite poder tener un mundo complejo de escritura. Siguiente pregunta. Ajá.
Mónica Rodríguez, del periódico La Jornada. Es un poquito más, si nos puede comentar sobre qué está escribiendo. Es melodías, más textos para libros, ficción, no sé.
Okay, if you can tell us about your writing, if nowadays you are writing more lyrics, or are you writing a book? Or
No, I'm not writing a book. No, just lyrics. Is that the same in? No, lyrics.
Que
What's that?
básicamente está escribiendo
Lyricals.
canciones.
No?
Digo, no, que ahorita no está escribiendo libros, que básicamente está escribiendo canciones. Okay. She wants to know which kind of themes are you writing about in your lyrics?
You know, God, death.
Dios, muerte, amor.
Hello, right here. Juan Carlos Garcia from Reforma newspaper. Mr. Cave, death is a very important part of your lyrics in some songs. I would like to know what do you think of our Mexican tradition of the Day of the Dead, and what does it mean for you, the death?
What does death mean to me? Wow. I'm not really sure where to start with that question. It's kind of important, not just to me, but probably to everybody, as it's going to happen. To you, too. But I love, look, I don't know too much about the Day of the Dead, but I assume it's a recognition of death as something that is with us all the time, and almost a celebration on some level, is that right? Of the concept of death. This is very unique. Where I come from, death is shunted off into palliative care hospitals and all of this sort of stuff. The dead are the old people are an embarrassment to our society. They are pushed into dark rooms and medicated and to die because the culture that I come from is purely concerned with aspirational growth. Death is an embarrassment. And the concept of actually having a day to celebrate the death is a very, very beautiful thing, I think. And to actually celebrate it in a kind of, it's almost like a party atmosphere. Is that true to say? I think this is a very, very beautiful idea. I think, can I carry on?
Yeah, for sure.
You know, I think that there's this idea that death exists at the end of our lives, but I think we carry our death with us all the time. It's beside us all the time. And it's quite nice, it's a good thing and a helpful thing to acknowledge that in some kind of way.
Ok, con respecto a la muerte, dice que, bueno, a todos nos va a suceder y todos vamos a llegar a ese punto, que no está muy enterado en cuanto a la tradición de Día de Muertos aquí en México, pero que lo que tiene entendido es que es una especie de celebración y que eso es algo único y algo hermoso, porque de donde él viene, básicamente la muerte es una vergüenza, es esa parte a la que llegas en donde a una persona vieja la encierras en un hospital o la dejas en un cuarto oscuro para que se muera, porque a fin de cuentas en la sociedad de la que él viene todo es como aspiracional y sin embargo la muerte se toma como algo vergonzoso, ¿no? Entonces que realmente es algo único, ese sentido de fiesta, de que a fin de cuentas la muerte es algo que todo mundo va a encontrar al final. Y mucha gente piensa que esa muerte, más bien que siempre cargas la muerte, entonces se le hace una celebración única y hermosa.
Okay. Over here in the front. Thank you and welcome to Mexico. I wanted to ask you about Distant Sky. How do you choose these 4 songs for the EP? Especially your rendition of From Here to Eternity is very powerful. And also about Cigarettes After Sex, how do you come up with the invitation for them to join you in your tour. Are they going to be in the whole tour in America or just for a couple of concerts with you?
I didn't really understand that. Can you
¿Puedes hablar un poquito más fuerte?
Maybe hold the mic a little bit further away from your...
Sorry.
No.
Cold.
Sí.
Yeah, about Distant Sky, how do you choose the 4 songs that are in the EP?
Oh, okay, yeah.
And especially your rendition from Here to Eternity is very powerful. And from Cigarettes After Sex, how do you come up with the invitation for them to join you in your tour? If they're going to be with you only...
I thought you were asking me about sex.
Me too.
And I thought, well, we can discuss it.
No, Cigarettes After Sex.
Oh, okay.
With you,
So, all right, so there's a few questions. One is that we just took the songs that... we were very, very happy with that film. You're talking about a live film that we did, right? Called Distant Sky. Yeah. Mm-hmm. We just chose the songs that we liked the most. You know, it's not rocket science really. And basically, the choosing of a support group is something that is always a problem actually, because thank you. We don't. We prefer, in a lot of ways, not to have a support group. Very often, a support group tends to exhaust the resources of the audience before you even get on stage, in my experience. But we've got Cigarettes After Sex for a number of shows, which is great, very exciting. So. And the way they get chosen is I get sent a bunch of people who are around and who are available to play with us, and I just choose somebody. You know.
What do you think about them?
I don't know. They're great. Yeah. Well, you're a fan. No, but no, they're great. Great.
Ok, en cómo escogen las canciones, justamente el Peque no es una ciencia realmente fuerte, que escogen las canciones que les gustan, ¿no? Entonces básicamente es eso. Y en cuanto al grupo de apoyo, que él piensa que a veces, o que prefiere no tener un grupo realmente que les abra porque siente que agotan un poco como los recursos, la fuerza de la audiencia, ¿no? Pero que pues los escogen, mucha de la gente que los rodea, pues les mandan música y demás, y que así básicamente terminan escogiendo al grupo abridor, ¿no? Y te pregunto que si eras fan, pero... Okay. Siguiente pregunta.
Atrás, Ulises Castañeda de La Crónica de Hoy. Mi pregunta es, ¿considera él que la música en la actualidad tiene o podría llegar a tener el mismo poder simbólico y contestatario que tuvo hace años atrás como el rock y el punk?
Do you think that music nowadays is able or could be able to have that power and have such an influence as genres like punk music or like rock music, or you don't see that?
Well, I think as soon as bands stop imitating the music that's gone before, they can have this power. There's not much power in imitation, I would say. So in that respect, I think a lot of the visceral power that's coming out of music is coming out of hip-hop and stuff like that, which seems to be, whether you like it or not, at least is moving forward on some level. A lot of rock and roll is just kind of looking backwards, and that's not a good recipe for transcendence. Nostalgia is not a good recipe for transcendence.
Que él piensa
make
que...
sure you
okay.
do that well.
Que él piensa que imitando no se va a poder tener ese poder, que en cuanto las bandas dejen de imitar, básicamente pueden tener ese poder y también esa parte visceral, que nunca la imitación va a ser algo creativo, final de cuentas, ¿no? Que quizá lo único, te guste o no te guste, por ejemplo, el hip hop fue algo que hizo un poco que iba empujando esa esa línea, ¿no? Aunque te guste o no te guste, pero que a fin de cuentas imitando nunca se va a poder lograr, ¿no? Como lo hicieron estos géneros que mencionas. Siguiente pregunta.
Juan Pablo, that was a good question, though.
Juan Pablo de Cultura Colectiva. So you've done and achieved so much in your career. What is your next milestone? What do you still hope to accomplish?
What do I want to accomplish next?
Yeah.
Well, I don't really see it in the way that it looks. I don't really see that that I've done a lot. You know, I don't. I feel there's so much more to do, and so much more to discover. I think that I want to try and work out a way of a more personal connection to my audience. This has become more and more important to me, not just for my own, not just for my own self, but I think it works very well for the audience as well. And I'm trying to work out how to do that at the moment. And there's various different projects that I'm attempting to do. I have a website at the moment called the Red Hand Files, which people ask me questions and fans ask me questions and I address them personally. I'm doing a long series of Q&A style in-conversation events around the world next year. That's basically what I'll be concentrating on. So I think I want to work out a new way of form of communication with the fans, I think. I think there seems to me, or I could be wrong, but there seems to me to be a hunger amongst people for something that is more, I don't know how to put it really. There seems to be a hunger in people for something that's deeper, and I think that there's an ability to find that within music. There is a religious element to music. I use that in the very broadest sense, or a spiritual element to music that I think that has been lost along the way. And I feel that there's a way of reclaiming that. And I'm trying to work on that in a way.
Que con respecto a justamente qué es lo que le falta hacer después de que ha hecho tanto, qué es lo que quiere lograr. Y dice que él realmente no piensa que ha logrado mucho, ¿no? Que piensa que todavía tiene mucho que hacer, mucho que descubrir y que uno de sus principales puntos es la conexión con la gente. Está tratando de encontrar la forma de conectar de una forma más profunda y es uno de sus objetivos principales actualmente con su audiencia, ¿no? Que no solo para él, para su ego, sino básicamente para ese contacto con su audiencia, ¿no? Tiene distintos proyectos, por ejemplo, tiene una página que se llama The Red Hand Files, en donde contesta él personalmente preguntas que le hacen sus fans y él las contesta personalmente, ¿no? También por ahí está muy abocado a dar determinadas pláticas en convenciones alrededor del mundo y él siente que la gente está hambrienta, está tratando de reclamar algo más profundo, ¿no? Que la música básicamente ha perdido ese elemento, primero menciona religioso, pero a fin de cuentas se refiere a algo más precisamente espiritual y que siente que la gente está reclamando eso y que es una especie de encontrar la forma para darles de vuelta eso que están reclamando. Siguiente pregunta.
Hola, I'm Willie Damas for Marvin Magazine. You come from a very heavy countercultural background, which not to say yours, but all counterculture have gone somehow mainstream.
I don't understand the start of that question. I come from a very heavy culture.
Countercultural background.
Counterculture, like underground scenes?
Oh, I see. Okay.
And it got to be mainstream with the years. Do you do work decisions on what you're gonna do, thinking of what underground has come to be, or is it something that you don't think of?
I've never been concerned with the underground as such, or I've never been concerned with what you're talking about. I do come out of that tradition, but I don't see any particular virtue in that, personally. I think what I'm trying to do is aspirational in some way. It's about moving upward. I don't see it as moving into the mainstream, really, but I do see it as a kind of an educating of people around my music. I don't actually think that the music that I make is any less difficult to, or any less. I don't see that the music that I'm making now is easier to listen to than the music that I was making back in when I was supposedly part of the underground culture. It may be more loud and abrasive back then, but the music that I'm making now is still very adventurous, and it's testing the people's boundaries a lot. So I don't feel that I've kind of slipped into the mainstream, which has this inherent idea of complacency and the mainstream. I don't really feel that that's happened to our band. I think that we've gotten more and more successful, but I think that we've drawn people into our own world rather than opening up our world and moving into the people's world.
Que en realidad nunca le ha interesado mucho lo que es el subterráneo o el underground, que a fin de cuentas no es algo que realmente le interese, que se salió de esa tradición, que él no siente que sea una virtud, sino que su música básicamente es aspiracional y es moverte, es crecer y hasta cierto punto también hacer que la gente aprenda determinadas cuestiones, ¿no? Que él nunca ha pensado que se ha movido que han sido exitosos, pero eso no quiere decir que se haya dormido en la complacencia de la corriente principal o del mainstream, ¿no? Sino que esa cuestión del mainstream, de ser muy complaciente, que él no piensa que se hayan situado en ese papel, sino que al contrario, su música como que prueba a la gente, no prueba las fronteras, hasta dónde puede llegar la gente, y en vez de hacer esa parte complaciente, ha atraído a la gente hacia su forma y hacia el tipo de música que ellos hacen, ¿no? Que los ha arrastrado más a su mundo y no al contrario, como generalmente se ve en la corriente principal. ¿10 minutos? 10 minutos, otra pregunta. Ajá.
Hola, encuentro admirable la forma en que tu música se puede convertir en una catarsis para superar crisis personales o pérdidas. Me gustaría saber si te interesaría compartir con nosotros algún proceso que te ayude a ti a hacer una catarsis para superar este tipo de cosas en la vida.
He thinks that it's amazing how you have been able to overcome personal tragedies. If you want to share with them something to do so and to be able to carry on.
You mean how to do that? Yeah, well, yeah, it's a difficult question. I don't have any, there's no, Okay, so I can't really talk about it from my point of view. It's very difficult. I can talk about it from the point of view of my wife and watching her and how she has overcome things. I find it much easier to observe this than to observe it in myself. But I've seen her transition from someone, within a space of a couple of years, someone who literally cannot move because of what has happened, to someone who is incredibly functional, inspirational woman. I find that I'm completely in awe of that, and I can see that actually grief can be something that's hugely empowering. It's not something that destroys you. It can destroy you, or it can empower you, depending on how depending what you allow yourself to feel. So, in that respect, I can only say that it is possible to overcome these things, and that actually there's a residual strength that comes out of grief that can make you actually a better person, a person that functions better, a person that is more empathetic, and a person that's more connected to the world. And I've seen that happen with my wife, and I feel that that's happened with me as well. But I think, but first of all, in regard to a tragedy like that, you have to scream and all the rest of it, you know, first of all, and then something comes out of that.
Que bueno, en cuanto a cómo lidiar justamente con una tragedia y cómo superarla, ¿no? Dice que igual no puede hablar tanto de él mismo, pero que lo pudo ver con su esposa, ¿no? Que igual para él es más fácil observar esa forma a través de su esposa que en él mismo, ¿no? Pero que literalmente de ver a una persona que no se puede mover y que efectivamente no se puede mover, llega a ser inspiracional ver cómo puede, a fin de cuentas, superarlo y empezar a tener un mucho mayor ímpetu, ¿no? Que la tragedia te hace tener mucho más empatía, que te hace estar mucho más conectado con el mundo, y que puede parecer contradictorio que de una tragedia no pueda resultar algo positivo, y que sin embargo sí puede ser algo positivo en cuanto a volverte una mejor persona, pero que definitivamente cuando uno sufre una tragedia uno tiene que gritar, y al gritar va a salir algo, pero que después de eso efectivamente llega la fortaleza para poder salir, ¿no? Por ahí va más o menos tu pregunta, ¿sí? Siguiente pregunta.
Morning, Nick. Isaiah Alvarado from Ibero 90.9. Got two questions. First of all, some years ago, you had these sort of hallucinations, these sort of things going around through your head that ended up on this book, the 6-song book. Well, the Sick Bag Songs book. Mm-hmm. That ended up at the Skeleton Tree, and then all the tour, all the things. You've done it already over the years. With the first one is Dead, with Let Levin, with the Boatsman Call. You've got all these things going around your head, and you let it came out. What are these?
That's what we do.
My question is, what are the hallucinations that are coming around Nick Cave's head at the moment?
What are those what?
Hallucinations.
Hallucinations. Oh, okay. Well, okay, so I think, you know, from I'm not sure when, but what happened for me was that I started to write about my own life. I think for a long time I kind of wrote songs that were based around characters doing things. They were stories, with narrative stories with characters. And at some point, I think that I discovered that I only had the authority to write about myself. And so for some time, very much so in the Sick Bag song, in the Boatman's Call, a lot of these records that you mentioned, I'm simply writing about myself, okay? And this becomes more and more so with each record, in the sense that I'm taking very, very ordinary situations that happen to us all, situations that happen, let's say, between me and my wife, things that happen within the house, small moments, small details of my life, and expanding them and hallucinating, if you like, on top of these very real details, and creating, I guess, a hallucinatory feel around the ordinary. In fact, I was reading an article today about Frida Kahlo, for example, and it seems to be a similar situation, I would say, that she's that she was painting about the very much her own personal situation, but expanding on that in a hallucinatory way. I would say this is very similar to what I do. So they feel like hallucinations, but in fact they're just little stories about very real, practical details of my life. Okay, thank you for asking that question.
Que no sabe exactamente cuándo empezó a escribir básicamente de él mismo, que al principio era todo basado en personajes, que era una narrativa con ciertos personajes ficticios, y que de repente descubrió que la única autoridad que tenía él era en escribir sobre él mismo, ¿no? Que igual se puede volver un poquito egoísta, pero que en realidad él lo que hace es escribir acerca de situaciones ordinarias, quizá con su esposa, quizá el día a día, lo que nos pasa todo, pero que se va básicamente a los detalles, entonces se expande, y que si puede ser ese punto de alucinación, de detalles, expandir lo ordinario, lo que a todos les sucede, a todos nos sucede, esa cotidianeidad, y hacerlo mucho más expandido, ¿no? Que estaba leyendo un artículo de Frida Kahlo y que piensa que es muy similar esa situación, tomar ciertas situaciones específicas de ella y las expandía y pintaba de sus situaciones personales. Entonces, que básicamente es lo que él hace, expandir a detalle esas situaciones personales, y que sería ese mundo de alucinación, por decirlo de alguna manera.
Última
Siguiente.
pregunta. Hi,
Última.
I'm Oscar Adame from Warp. And well, you have described yourself as a storyteller. You have made songs that are stories. That I think that's the particular thing about your songwriting, that it always tells a story. But you have also made the music for cinematical pieces, for movies, for short films. I want to know, like, which are the differences between making the music for a lyrical tale and making the music for a cinematical tale.
What's the difference between writing a song and writing cinema music, you mean?
Yeah.
That kind of thing?
That kind of thing, but thinking about that music always have to have like this feeling that support the tale that you are talking about.
Yeah, that's more and more so, I would say. So, you know, I've obviously been, from a personal point of view, and I'm not talking about my band here, who have completely different issues around what we do. It's always been a lyric thing, essentially, for me. It is a storytelling thing. It's a way of telling stories. And I do that through words, right? So that idea of writing words has always been the primary activity of mine. So for me, music doesn't really have much sense until I put words with it. Now the writing of music for movies is a different thing altogether, because I'm not writing with words. I'm writing music. This becomes this is extremely enjoyable for me to do. I don't have the stress of trying to write lyrics, and I just get to sit around with Warren Ellis and do beautiful things. So they're very different sorts of things. Writing lyrics for me is my primary function, and in that respect, it's full of anxiety. Making music is is something that's much more enjoyable.
Ok, para traducirla nada más rápidamente, que él siempre ha pensado que la parte personal, o sea, él habla a su punto de vista y no en cuanto a la banda, que siempre las letras y el contar una historia es extremadamente importante, que la música para él tiene sentido hasta que tiene letra, pero ya una vez que escribe música para película, algún soundtrack, que se vuelve un poco menos estresante, porque no tiene que estarse preocupando en las letras, entonces puede ver tranquilamente a Warren Ellis estar haciendo música, pero que pues básicamente él siempre está basado en un contar de historias en cuanto a las letras ya de canciones, ¿no? Well, thank you very much.
Is there anyone else wants to ask anything?
¿Alguien quiere acá? ¿Otra? Okay.
Oh, you can ask as much as you like, actually. But if you want, is there anything else?
Yes, gracias. Me gustaría saber cómo le gustaría a él trascender personalmente en la historia y cómo, de manera personal, y cómo le gustaría trascender en la historia de la música.
Okay. Which will be your... how could you like to transcend? How could you like that people reminds you in talking about your music and in the history of music?
I don't know about the history of music. I really don't know about that sort of thing. But I'm getting a lot of letters. I get a lot of letters from people who listen to my music. And it's very difficult to recognize, for me personally, to recognize the effect of my music. I don't have any understanding of that. I don't have the same love for my own music that I have for other people's music, if you understand. It seems, I seem kind of removed from it. It's like something that I do and send away. But there are certain songs that I listen to. I might listen to a Neil Young song or a Van Morrison song that bring about an absolute change in consciousness for me. They change my life within the 4 minutes of listening to the song. This is incredible power of music. Some people write to me and say that this happens when they listen to my music, and this is the most the greatest compliment that can ever be paid to me, and really does actually make the making of music worthwhile. In regard to how I'll be seen historically, I have absolutely no idea in that respect. I don't know.
Que a nivel histórico, que no tiene ni idea realmente cómo se va a recordar o cómo le gustaría. Pero a nivel personal, básicamente que él recibe muchas cartas, o sea, bueno, de correspondencia, ¿no? De sus fans. Que él no percibe su música igual que quizás sus fans lo perciben, ¿no? Pero que él, tomando ejemplos personales de cómo la música de otros lo han influido, música, por ejemplo, como de Neil Young o de Van Morrison, que le cambiaron básicamente la vida, y que estas correspondencias que tienen sus fans con él le dicen que ha generado eso música, sus canciones, porque él escribe las canciones y básicamente es como aventarlas, como decir ahí les van, y no tiene mucha conciencia del impacto que pueden tener. Entonces que de repente en esa correspondencia de los fans, que les digan que está modificando su vida, que está cambiándole de esa forma su vida, que él ya tiene su pago, y que con eso básicamente es el mejor halago y como que él puede tener, y el mejor pago por hacer su música, ¿no? ¿Alguna más? O
acá. Hola, quisiera preguntar sobre su nuevo disco, si puede adelantar algo, y si está preparado para los fans mexicanos, porque suele bajarse en sus shows, y pues aquí estamos un poco intensos, entonces si está preparado para el público mexicano.
Okay, que si su disco es como...
un adelanto de su disco, y si está preparado para el público mexicano.
Ok, que si él está preparado para...
Sí, porque se baja en sus conciertos, interactúa mucho.
Ya entendí. What can you tell us about your new album? And if you are, that's the first question, if you can tell them something about your new album. Que no hay ningún adelanto del nuevo disco. And if you are concerned, or if you are prepared to play in front of Mexican audience, because they know you always come down, but Mexican people is quite passionate with the artist. So if you are prepared to that kind of...
Am I prepared for Mexican passion? Bring it on.
Que tráiganla.
Yeah, I mean, I've forgotten the first question, but no, I can't speak about the new album. It will scare it away. We're just working on it, and if you start speaking about things before they're ready, my songs are kind of shy. I'm very ready for Mexican passion.
No, que bueno, que no va a hablar del nuevo disco porque no, como que siente que adelantar cosas, ¿no? Y pues que venga la pasión del público mexicano.
Exactly. Can you mention some of your heroes, not in music, in general, your life?
I don't know. My wife.
Su esposa es su héroe.
Buenos días, Miguel López de Grita Radio. El disco Murder Ballads es uno de mis favoritos, pero el Skeleton Trees es un disco muy oscuro, muy lindo. Tiene todo ese contexto, quizá por la situación en la que se produjo el disco, pero el Murder Ballads tiene colaboraciones. Mi pregunta es, ¿tienes pensado alguna colaboración en futuros álbumes, como por ejemplo fue PJ Harvey o Kylie Minogue?
Okay, that Murder Ballads is one of his favorite albums, but he also thinks that Skeleton Tree is such a wonderful album. In the case of Murder Ballads, there are features. Are you planning to have, in the near future, any kind of collaboration with a singer? Such as Kylie Minogue? No, no sabe.
The thing about Murder Ballads was that it was a bunch of stories told from different perspectives, and some were told by women. Some of the stories were told by women, so I needed to get women to sing them. And that was really enjoyable. It was complex, shall I say. More complex than probably was a good idea. But anyway. There's always room for collaborations within what I do.
Que en el caso de, digo, que no sabe, ¿no? Con alguien en particular, no, que siempre hay un espacio para colaboraciones, que en el caso de el álbum Murder Ballads eran historias contadas por mujeres y que le sucedían a mujeres, entonces pues tenía que conseguir a mujeres para participar, ¿no? Y que fue un disco muy complejo, quizá demasiado complejo, pero que siempre va a existir un espacio para que él colabore con algunos cantantes, ¿no? Acá está.
Hi Nick, has touring behind Skeleton Tree been more difficult than for your other records? And the second question is, what can you remember about being on Wings of Desire? On Wings of Desire, the movie.
So, no, it's been really amazing, this tour. The Skeleton Tree tour has been hugely helpful to me personally. It's the actual touring has really helped me deal with difficulties in my life at this time, in a great way. It's not been a matter of avoidance, like going on tour, and it's been quite the other. It's not been a matter of avoidance in the sense that I've just gone on tour and worked and not had to think about the death of my son. It's actually been the other way around. It's been something where on a nightly basis, on some level, I'm not confronted by that, but there is some acknowledgement of that goes on that's been really helpful to me in regard to dealing with this situation. And that's largely come from the way the fans have reacted to the whole thing. It's just been fucking extraordinary. It really has. It's different, it's different than anything that I've experienced before. And as a consequence, the shows are really complex things, you know. They're not just getting up and doing your show. They're very complex events. And for Wings of Desire, I just saw that the other day, actually. It got remastered or something. Did you see that? You didn't like it? Oh, yeah. Okay, well, you know, I didn't really know Wim so well when he asked me to do that. I became very good friends with him afterwards. I didn't even really know what he did. So it was just a matter of turning up and performing in that film. I didn't really understand in any way that I was involved in the making of a classic movie or a great movie. It was just, I was just doing a film for some crazy German guy, and he was paying me some money. So I was, you know, so it's amazing the legs that film has and how it still continues to mean so much to people, you know.
En cuanto al tour de Skeleton Tree, dice que es básicamente para él sido una experiencia muy buena y también de crecimiento para él, que no fue nada más alejarse, como evadirse de la situación que estaba viviendo con la muerte de su hijo, sino que todo lo contrario, no era nada más trabajar y olvidarte de las cosas y no pensar, sino al contrario, que fue una especie de terapia que le confrontaba a veces noche tras noche para pensar en eso, y que sin embargo fue algo reconfortante, y que la reacción de la gente también fue impresionante y pues básicamente maravillosa, pero sí fue muy terapéutico básicamente para él, ¿no? Y en cuanto a su actuación en Wings of Desire, que la acaban de remasterizar, según contaban, que sí te había gustado, que sí, y que básicamente pues él lo hizo, ¿no? Que nunca realmente pensó mucho en eso, que necesitaba dinero y que hacer algo para un loco alemán, ¿no? Entonces que era llegar, presentarse y actuar y ya, y se acabó, ¿no? Pero que no tenía conciencia de que fuera a hacer algo con tanta influencia con el paso del tiempo. ¿Ya con esta? Ok, pues terminamos. Pues muchas gracias. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Más fuerte el aplauso es Nick Cave.